Hey guys, good afternoon. It's Chris with Nichols Retirement Empire, and today we're going to revisit the story about the 6-year-old that shot their teacher. There was some news this last week that came out. I didn't see it as widespread as I saw the original news about it, but it was out there. The student, the 6-year-old, just to review, there was a 6-year-old that apparently took a pistol to school. It was seen by some other students, reported to the school. Somebody from the school searched the student physically, I guess, did not find the weapon, and sent the student back to class. And later on, the student pulls out the pistol, shoots the teacher, and then it kind of goes from there, the story. So basically, that is what happened. I did a video originally about the incident, and I told you in the original video that, because a lot of people were like, well, what's going to happen to the student? And I told you in the original video that student probably would not be charged because there's really nothing they could do to the student to actually punish them for doing this, because they're 6 years old, or they were. I guess they're still 6 years old. They were 6 years old at the time of the incident. So sure enough, this week the district attorney from that area came out and said that there would be no charges whatsoever against the student because they said that the student could not form the intent to commit a crime against their teacher. So basically what they were saying is that there's no legal standing for them to charge a 6-year-old with that kind of crime, or really with a crime period, because they're not old enough to understand what they're doing. They don't understand the criminal. He particularly said they do not understand the criminal justice system. They could not, in a trial, they could not take the witness stand or anything like that, so they can't be charged. Now, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. We don't have prisons for 6-year-olds. But, there are some things that I would like to address with that. For one, had that child been charged, there are situations where a judge could possibly, for lack of a better way to say it, sentence the child to some type of treatment, for their problem, whatever the problem is. In other words, they could force it by court order for the child to have to see a child psychologist or psychiatrist, or for them to get a certain type of counseling, or for them to be held in a youth detention facility, or for the parents to undergo some type of care, or for the parents to undergo some type of training. In other words, a judge could issue court orders for them to do certain things. Now, if the child's not charged, I don't know if they can do that, through that situation. However, if the child is being investigated through Family and Children's Services, maybe there are, judges that could do court orders through that, so that something is being done. And I said in the original video, there's not many people. I think a lot of people have things in their mind. Well, all this stuff can be done to help rehabilitate this child and help this child. I really don't know how much there is out there. There aren't that many people that are the type of child psychiatrists and stuff like that, because it's hard to even determine, to do a diagnosis on somebody that's 6 years old for anything. It's just very, very difficult to tell what they are, what the problems are, or if there are any problems. It's hard to tell with that age. And there's not many people that are qualified to do real in-depth work in these kind of situations. And the ones that are probably are not working for the state. They're in their own private practice, and they make a lot of money. And it costs a lot of money to send kids to facilities or to people like that. they're very rare. Um, Generally, you just get kind of a one size fits all kind of psychiatric care or counseling for children that are in the criminal justice type system, or children that are in the DFACS court ordered kind of stuff. They're not getting the absolute top tier care. And if this child is 6 years old and is going to be going to school telling his, supposedly telling the teacher he's going to kill them, and then later on bringing a gun and shooting them, they're not just a run-of-the-mill, candidate for counseling. They need something more intense. And I don't know what's out there, and I don't know if DFACS can provide that. I don't know if the state can provide that and order that to take place. I don't know. And I don't know their family situation with their parents. Can the parents afford stuff like that? Are the parents going to be held liable? They haven't determined that yet. The parents have stood by saying that they did have their weapon secure, and that the student was able to figure out how to get it despite their best efforts of keeping it away from the child. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other about that. So that's still kind of up in the air about the parents being held responsible. But the bottom line is, if the child is willing and able to figure this stuff out and do this kind of stuff, what's going to be done with this child? Now, if the state is kind of washing their hands of it, and the district attorney saying we don't have anything to do with it, and DFACS can only do so much with it because the child is 6, who does that leave? That leaves the school. Now the school has all this responsibility on them. What are they supposed to do with this student? The schools generally do not have alternative schools for elementary age or kindergarten age students. This student is 6 years old. So if they cannot deny the student their free and appropriate public education, they have to provide a way for this student to get their education at a public school. So if they have to pay for a private individual teacher to go and teach this child wherever, and whether it's in their home or in some other facility or whatever, they're going to have to pay for it. And the taxpayers are going to have to pay for that. That child is going to get their education. And the thing that I brought up in that first video that I predicted is that sometime in the future, and I think the very near future, this child will be right back into a classroom, or at least in a school building with their peers. They're going to be back in a school sooner than later with the other children. And that's what a lot of people are the most nervous about. If I had a child in that school, and the school's not going to give them any information. The school's not going to say, okay, tomorrow the student that shot their teacher is coming back to school and they're going to be in Miss So-and-so's class. They're not going to do that. Now, people will figure it out if they go to that school, or the school district might put them in another school, or the school district might have a way to justify, which I think they should be able to justify, that this student does not need to be around other students. They're a danger. Let's put them in a, more individualized program. But oftentimes those programs where they're supposed to be isolated from the other students are in a building where it is a school building. They just don't go out, with the other kids to lunch, or they don't go out. They're housed with other students. Now, in some cases, they're housed away from other students, but that's usually just a temporary thing. It might be for a year or two, because there are students out there. There's a lot of them that commit violent type crimes. They try to burn their house down. They try to stab their parents. They try to, they steal things. They steal cars. They do at very young ages, and they do all these things. And they have situations set up where these students can still get their education that are, away from the other public students. But, more and more often they're away, but they're with those other students. And the rules, the laws by the government, federal government and state governments, basically encourage the school districts to work as quickly as possible to get those students back in a situation where they are with their peers, even if it's just for one class a day, even if it's just during lunchtime, even if it's just, and you should strive to include them in with the other students more and more and more time as you can until they're able, to handle it. So, my prediction still stands. First I was right that the state's really not going to do anything to them. They're not going to punish them. And they may not even punish the parents. I don't know. They could be sued civilly and say, the people whose kids were in that classroom could sue them civilly and say that you caused my child trauma because you let your child do this, and they'd have to prove that, and they could be sued in a civil court. So that could still happen. But I was right that they weren't going to be punished by the law, for lack of a better way to say it, or by the state or by the county or whatever. And I still stand by my, what I said, that they will be back in school. And I don't know if they'll be back in that school, but if they keep living in that school district, they can't force them to leave, then laws promote trying to get that student back into class with their peers. So we'll see how that plays out. And you'll never see that in the news. At some point, there may be, there might be a situation where it gets out because the parents complain about it and they go to the school board, the other parents or something like that. But the bottom line is, from here on out, it's private. It's not public record. Anything that happens, that child's name is not public record. Anything that's going to be done in the school system for that child is not going to be public record. None of that is public record. They're a minor, and that's the way that's going to go. So we'll see if anything comes out of this in the future. But as far as the state is concerned, that child is not charged with a single thing. All right, guys. Thanks for watching Nichols Retirement Empire, and you have a good day.